track of karate without belts. You can't see it, but me and Jeremy are in our polo formal wear, opposite sides of when we would normally record. This may become mainstay, but today we're going to get into one of Jeremy's favorite movies and something not until the day we did the podcast about Karate Kid I had even heard of. Jeremy, would you care to introduce this movie for us?
One of my favorite movies and kind of got my curiosity in martial arts was The Adventures of Remo Williams. The Adventure Begins.
And it never ended, but it didn't.
Yeah, it was kind of a one and done deal, but I don't know, it raised so many questions about the martial arts when I was a kid, and I'm like, wow, is that possible? Is that possible? No, not really. I mean, it's a fun kind of spoof on martial arts. No, and I still use some of the taglines in the movie to this day. Matter of fact, I caught myself using one of them on my kids the other day when they were trying to get ready for bed. So we'll talk about that. So.
Well, and I caution even calling this a martial arts movie.
Yeah.
Because going back and like when we were talking about it, I was like, oh, let's do this beachside. Okay. I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I watched it the day we did after we did the podcast about the Karate Kid, and I was both like horrified and amazed. I caution to say this isn't really a martial arts movie because there isn't any martial arts in it.
Per se, no. But it's kind of a spoof on it though too. So
it's kind of, the guy is what he does is he learns how to run, I guess, at a moderate pace and jump on stuff.
Well,
and jump through stuff too, and just crash through things.
Some of the other things.
Burst out of sand.
Yeah, burst out of sand. Well, I mean, there are other things on there too. I mean, that was one of the more wildly amusing things in the movie, but you get into, human tendencies and some human nature of different things and how to play off of it and stuff. And in a way, I think that kind of goes into martial arts and martial arts training.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at kind of the sidetracks on it and stuff, it's like not everything appears to be what it appears to be. A lot of times, like one of my favorite parts in the movie is they're in the kitchen. The little instructor guy, his name's Chun. If you've never seen it. And
spoiler alert for like a 35-year-old B movie.
Yeah, well, hey, it was a class movie back then, but he tells Remo to put his hands behind his head, and he just kind of he puts them back there, and then Shun just kind of looks at him, and then he nails him and kicks him right in the groin. Of course he doubles over and he goes, I didn't tell you to keep him there, and so it's kind of like,
it's a very throwaway scene too. It's not like there is no like great emphasis on it. It's just like, okay, well, you're stupid.
Well, I mean, but when you're training in martial arts, don't you have those? I don't know. I've had those moments several times. I don't know about John, but there are times when you really kind of reflect and look at it, it's like, wow, that was really stupid. Why did I do that?
That happened. That happened. You did that with me, with me and a couple people a couple times. I recall.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
One's with the back of the hand, and one's with the forward of the hand.
Yeah.
On the same day, nonetheless.
Well, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, but I mean, you go through training, and it's kind of like. I think personally, I think a really good instructor kind of lets you see when you're like, whether they call it out directly or they let you figure it out that, wow, what I just did was really dumb. I shouldn't do that. And so there's different ways, but I mean that one instance in that movie was very um, looking back on all the martial arts 30 years or so of martial arts training, it's like, yeah, that's kind of fitting,
Yeah.
so
Well, maybe we should back up a little and kind of maybe describe the plot of this movie for people who don't, because I never heard of this movie, and I don't think a lot of people who were not around then, for people I guess more in my generation, they've heard of your because of some other review outlets and whatnot. They've heard of your Leo Fongs. They've heard of your the kind of more obscure Claude Claude pictures. I think more ironically than not. But this picture, I completely was not on my radar at all. So this is based apparently on a book called The Destroyer, and I thought this
yes,
was just just a one-off book. And I did some research. I'm like, holy Christmas! It's a
huge
close to
series.
200 books, I guess, in its series now
Yeah,
of just pulp novels and stuff like that. So I've made it my life's goal if I survive the current crisis, which I mean, there's still chances that we might not. But if I survive this current crisis, I want to write up one of these books, and I just want to eschew anything that actually happened in any of the books, and just focus on writing a sequel to the novel, or to the sorry, not the novel, the movie, because it demands sequelization. But let's go through. What is this movie? How does it begin? We start off in New York. I guess it's contemporary. It's contemporaneous with its era of 1985, 86. Um, some buckwheat cop is chasing down an alley, and he gets ambushed and thrown off a pier, and then disappeared essentially. People think he's dead, but he's not.
yeah. And so I mean, since the guy's got no family, no any, I mean, he's kind of a loner in a way. So the secret government agency,
Cure.
yeah, yeah, the cure, yeah, it recruits him for basically what they call public service assassinations and stuff like that. So, and it goes through different things, and um,
Essentially, it's a three-man death cult.
yeah, well,
And
kind of four, but anyhow,
kind of four. I mean, like I guess John is involved in it, but he's like
yeah,
just kind of more. If we're gonna like put organization into this, we got the fat guy behind the computer who essentially has the internet. He's a hacker on the internet before it was a thing, and then you have the African American guy who's just suave, cool guy, can apparently walk in anywhere, do anything, has robot arm or just prosthetic arm,
yeah,
and I guess the third of their crew is our titular character Remo Williams, who is pulsating between fish out of water character and just kind of like aloof Han Solo esque.
yeah,
And I mean like Han Solo, and not in like the first two, but I mean like who's just kind of trying to ham it up in the Return of the Jedi, because
yeah,
how Harrison Ford acts in that movie is not how he acted in the first two. Regardless, this is our group, and they promise to basically essentially kill each other if they ever get caught
yeah,
found out.
yeah. And so, like his first assignment, they basically tell him that they've got to take out Chun, which ends up being his instructor. And so little they didn't tell him anything, but Chun is this so-called master of this art that they call Shinanju. And so one of the things that they do is like they teach. I don't know what they teach, but it's like it shows
It's
how he,
completely fictional. It's
yeah.
not. It's not. It's this. Okay, let's get this out of the way because we got to talk about it at some point. So let's just get this out of the way. All right. So why I found this movie horrifying, and Jeremy, you have a different perspective because you were, did you see this in the theater or is this a direct to
Yeah,
VHS?
I saw it in the theater.
Holy Moses! Because holy yellow face Batman. We got to get this out of the way. The Sean, the character, is Korean and is the character is Korean. The actor is not,
Yeah,
and it is not okay what they did then. It's not okay. It wasn't okay then. It wasn't okay. It's not okay now. And kind of, this is I think maybe a symptom of the source material rather than the screenplay and how things were back in Hollywood then and how they still kind of are now, but are progressively getting better. Kind of sad to see that this is a post Bruce Lee thing, but still, the actor who is playing Chun is not. He's a white guy who they put in yellowface. And how they portray the Korean culture, they don't portray it in any sort of way. It's a kind of non-portrayal because they literally didn't get a Korean person in there. Didn't
yeah,
seem to consult any person knowledgeable of Korean culture. It like literally makes no sense. Like his fashion sense makes like I think they think it was an approximation of what some guy from Korea might wear. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's just like they got some weird approximation of like Asian dress sense.
yeah. I noticed that it. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, sometimes he's in like some type of Chinese outfit. Then next time you see him, it may be a Japanese outfit. And I think there's a couple times like, yeah, that kind of looks somewhat Korean. And then you may look at something and it's like that almost looks
Inner
like it's in
Mongolian?
Indonesia or
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it's like, oh my, okay, well, whatever, cool.
Well, and then it's like he's doing like faux. I can very clearly see he's doing like faux calligraphy. It's not really any language. It's not. He's not actually writing anything. He's one point he's doing this on a tiger rug,
Yeah,
and so the enigma that is this poor portrayal and apologies, and this is why I was horrified at this film because they not only it's not just the fact they say oh he's Korean, they make it a fact to say this guy is like a Korean supremacist.
yeah,
And like to an absolute point and no one is everyone's kind of pulling the race card out in this movie but in a very backhanded kind of way like a very old school jingoistic way and it's not fine but it's understandable for the time it's still not fine so like I've got to be like very Dr. Manhattan about this and just be like I can't condemn it I can't condone it.
I get it. I totally get it. But oh, to me, I kind of look past that, just kind of look at the story. It's just fun, you know.
Yeah. So we had to cover that. We had to talk about that. But
No,
getting to this story, this plot. So who's our real antagonist here?
you know, I it, I mean, part of it is like the guy who's taking money from the government, but then it's also,
Kind of the government?
yeah, kind of the government, kind of and in some
Diamond.
ways, in some ways, this kind of brought light to, during that time. I wouldn't say it was the only movie, but it kind of brought light to a different level of corruption in the government
Well, yeah.
during that time. During
What
that time,
is
I mean, everybody looked at corruption as this, that, or the other thing, and it's like, well, wait a minute, what about this military overspending where you're spending $800 on a toilet seat and things like that, and it kind of it was kind of interesting a
For
little bit
that
after.
time, yes. I mean, nowadays we're very much like, damn, budget's overblown. But like that was, I guess, maybe the beginning of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when a lot of people started really like, why are we doing this? What's going on with that? And people started really kind of coming. I wouldn't say this movie is completely responsible for that, but I think that was kind of the sign of the times. Around that time, people were
Yeah,
starting to question some of the things that the government was spending on.
but these guys
It,
go literally ride and die on it. It's like we are going to. They're pretty much like we're gonna take out people. We're gonna work outside the justice system and murder people who we don't believe.
yeah,
This is the weirdest thing. They're like they're operating outside of the government at the direct request of the president,
yeah,
but they need evidence on the guy doing the thing, but they're assassins.
yeah.
So why do you need evidence on
Well,
the guy
well, I
if you're
mean,
just gonna kill him?
well, yeah, but you don't want to. I, I don't know. That's a question. I mean, part of me is kind of like, well, it's like, take somebody out. It's like, you got to have some type of evidence to make sure it's somewhat plausible deniability and things like that, and let it go away. But the other part of me is like, it's kind of, but I mean, I don't know. To me, I've always liked the movie for just the basically the quips and the different things and how it relates to different trainings, not just in martial arts but also in life itself.
Yeah, because like Chun, I mean, for all the problematic issues of that character and all the issues like around that, if you just kind of pull that story element out, um, of those two talking, which I
Yeah,
mean the business of it, which is kind of a bit incorrect. It's kind of a weird commentary too of just like people coming from culture A and then viewing culture B, like for example, supposedly Korean culture viewing American culture.
yeah.
Um, and what does he find the purest form of art in?
Oh, what the name of it or whatever or whatever.
It's soap operas.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. He
And
said the
there's
only
kind of a
thing.
mini plot within the soap opera, like of like in the movie, and it tracks. It tracks.
Yeah, yeah. He's like only contribution to the arts is the soap opera, and you're just like, oh my goodness, Yeah, I think whenever I went to go see it, I went and go see it with mom and dad, and I think that was back when my mom actually watched soap operas, and she thought that part was hilarious, and but it was funny after, not long after that, she goes, there's just too much stuff going on in these. Forget. So, she finally stopped watching them.
But it's a linchpin point to the plot to a degree because like it's the reason for them kind of quote unquote continuing the adventure.
Yeah, exactly. But
It's like a motivating factor for one of our characters to
yeah,
like just be done with it. So I guess
but
like
let's change the plot twist to some of just the going back to just the conversations between you
right.
know Remo and Chun. I mean, if you just look at that piece, no,
Yeah.
don't look at all the other stuff. I mean, it has a lot of wisdom to where it's like first, you have some confrontational pieces, and then you also have some really good parts of wisdom. Like, one of the things that Chun says is like, um, and I think this one kind of stuck through me. It's like, fear is just a feeling. you feel hot, you feel cold, you feel this, you feel that. Fear will never kill you. I was like, well, I don't know about that. There's been a couple times I thought that, um, but I mean, and he talks about, without getting over fear, you literally hamper your life.
Mm.
And and
There's
and
a
I
common
think,
theme in that time too, because you think about like there's Karate Kid, there's
mhm,
Dune,
yeah, I mean,
Fear is the mind killer, Fear is the little death. Even though that book was written in the '60s, that
well,
movie came out in the '80s, like same
uh,
year.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean, you think about a lot of those things. I mean, look at even Rocky three especially,
Oh yeah,
Top Gun, Iron Eagle. I mean, all these different classic '80s movies from, since I'm an old guy here. But yeah, it is a classic theme from the '80s. Face your fears, move on.
yeah. And so I think it carries a decent theme of getting there, and then like it kind of acts itself out in some interesting ways. I mean, it's kind of unbalanced in terms of like what the plot is versus kind of the themes. It's not
Yeah,
very it's not very well thought out in that regard, which is a little sad. Um,
it does have a decent plot. Or halfway decent plot.
yes.
Basically, they are looking for corruption. They find this person that makes they're bringing forth a huge government project, but yet nothing shown from it. But there's a lot of expenses to it and things like that. And so they're like, "What's really going on? Why is this going on?" And then they find the corruption behind it, and then they go after him. So when you look at it from that, but like I said, some of my favorite things are like the quips and stuff, like one of the initial uh, plot whenever Remo tries to assassinate Chun, and then they go back and Remo's about passed out, and they're like, "So what do you think?" He's very slow, you know. It's like he moves like a pregnant yak, things like that have just stuck with me over the years. And actually, I used that on my kids the other night when they were trying to get dressed for for bed, and I'm like, "You two move like pregnant yaks. Now, come on, get moving. Let's go." You know,
Got to pass it on somehow.
hey, some of these great words of wisdom need to be, you know, gone through gone through life and time, and if that's something I can pass down through family interaction, to the next generation, then hey, that count me in. So
Well, it goes to be pseudo serious for a moment. Is like to say it's like it goes into being able to find the flaws in people you're teaching, or teachers finding flaws in the people that what is the purpose of a teacher is to kind of find like not because it's interesting because it goes into when Remo comes down there, he's just acting like Action Man, like regular like American hero Action Man, and then just gets completely. It's very comedic because it's clearly they're not doing martial arts; they're just doing. It's almost akin to the Marx Brothers, just like
I,
flying through things and punching through walls and like
well,
all this other stuff. Like it's
don't forget
and
about the dodging of the bullets. Come on now, that's
yeah, he's dodging bullets, and I don't know. That's the thing. It's like, are they playing it straight? Because it feels like they are, but it's not coming off that way.
well. Some of the things that they talk about, like, later on they ask, how did you do that? And it's like, you heard the flexor metacarpals, you could hear the sound of your flexor metacarpals and all this other stuff. you know, it, I mean, yeah, whatever. But, if you think about now, I've heard stories of people who were able to be very successful at rock, paper, scissors. I won't go into who, I won't any of that kind of stuff, but they were able to pay attention to the muscles in somebody's forearm so well that they knew what they were going to throw before they were going to throw it.
Right, and that's, I mean, that's
And it kind of
what's a decent
pays.
part of martial arts is being able, not anticipate, but being able to kind of get that 1 second off, that one moment where you can actually, get something in, as opposed to the you're going to deal with gross movement, but at the same time, if you what's going to make you more successful, like what's going to make you win and the other person not, is being able to even 1 second, one flex in the muscle or whatever. Well, we were talking about magic triangle a long time ago.
Oh yeah, magic triangle. Yeah.
We'll explain that concept another day, but goes into it where it's like if you can see somebody's head movement or something like that, you can most likely kind of gauge where they're going.
Well,
So,
and then goes to different parts of life. Not that I condone this, but if you know how to count cards and go into a casino, guess what? You have an advantage over the casino. I'm not saying do that, but I am saying that. But it's like whatever you have that advantage. Whether it's being able to pay attention to different muscle groups, where to pay attention to different patterns, this, that, the other thing, and it's um, and that goes back to several episodes ago when I talked about analysis. Those are some of the things that you learn to analyze, and in a way that's kind of what that movie kind of got into, is a little bit of, and I think that's what drew me to the movie. Was it's like, it's a lot of analysis. It's not really there, there is some mystical stuff around the martial arts in the movie, but for the most part, not. I mean, there's not much martial arts to it. So,
well, I mean, like that. I mean, that's why like it's fun to think this is a martial arts movie. I mean, the most martial arts that happen is basically Chun kills a guy with the what is it, the Statue of Liberty, and
yeah,
the martial arts equipped is essentially running up and running down the Statue of Liberty, which I mean is on the poster and everything. I think is very iconic, but this never caught on because apparently this was an attempt to make it kind of like James Bond, but and it did not go that way at all.
no, no, but if I remember right, the I know back in the day, I don't know if it's still true or not, but to my understanding, that was the highest paid stunt ever done on a movie.
Oh, that. I mean, probably at least back in that time because they actually had to give them. They did so. Parts of it were actually on the Statue of Liberty. Parts of it were on replication, which you can see it a little in the movie. But I mean, especially for the time, like they blended it pretty well. Like it's not a poorly put together in terms of the story. It's not poorly put together. The problem is it falls apart in the final act. So
Yeah.
that's where, because it literally makes no sense. Like, why are they chasing Remo Williams? They don't know who he is. Like, they
Well,
don't.
at that point, they kind of have signaled the guy out. And it's like this guy is kind of doing stuff we're not comfortable with, so it's kind of like we need to
And
put
then
him.
a ski lift goes by, and I don't know if I missed that part of the movie, and like he just jumps on it, and like it just goes by. But it's like it's never explained where that comes from. It's never hinted at why that's there. It's just kind of there to get a character from point A to point B, which is what you need to do to kind of move the plot along.
Yeah,
I guess we got to mention this. Catherine Janeway, Kate McGraw is in this movie, and she does an excellent job. She doesn't
yeah,
give much to work with. Um,
yeah. She was definitely fun. probably the real setup support character. I mean, she set up almost all that, a lot of the different things that were going on in that in the movie. You know, different sequences and different plots that were going on in the movie. So
Yeah, I mean, she's an anchor in terms of an anchor actor and stuff like that. I mean, she's the right person for that film. I just wish she was given more to. She kind of got the woman plot. It's like it's a shame we have the woman that like you're a woman in the military. Oh man, life must be real hard for you. Literally, it tracks her to the end of the freaking movie where it's like where like the army guys are getting out and they're just like, come on, man, just remember, even though she's a woman, she's also a major and she's on our side. It's like. Yeah, you just put that dialogue in there. Just how to do that. So
well, again, that was a sign of the times too. So
yeah, sign of the times. 35 years. It's weird to think it was 35 years ago.
but you know, if you look at it, you know, through that movie, it does kind of start bringing up the question to, I wouldn't say combat it, but definitely have the discussion or have the conflict behind, you know, the traditional woman role in the military and what the new role of women in the military. If you really look at it, that kind of really does bring that out in that movie.
I mean, it does. I mean, she gets female charactered as like the love in pseudo. I mean, she doesn't really go 100% in that direction.
Well,
Except one little like his like the whole pressure point thing that June does.
oh yeah, no, that cracks.
That's a little out of hand.
I mean, yeah, that was a little nuts, but I mean, one of the parts, what was it when she's in front of the general and the general's like, you know, it makes no difference to me that you're a woman, and then she turns around and she goes, that's good to know. If it makes any difference, it makes no difference that you're a man either, you know. And so it's just kind of like, bam, you know, here.
Hit back. Well, it's a good hit. There's a good hit. There's a good hit back. It's just also. It's funny because it's just like, who is that guy? Wait, why did I have my pictures taken with that guy? Wait, and she's going against the like corporate dude. It's like, wait a minute, you're not a ranking member of the military. What do you have to say about any of this?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
and if you think about it, especially at that time, you're talking supposedly Remo's a survivor of the Vietnam War, and then which wasn't more than what 10 years prior to this. And so with that fresh,
yeah, it was about 10, yeah, around a decade. Yeah, you're right.
You had about what 50 years of it being pretty commonplace for probably most people on your block, most men on the block, to have had some military experience or gotten drafted or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Common than not. So what was it all for? To have a guy like that and basically rob the country.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I think speaking to that point you brought up before, like it does allow for that counterbalance, which is nice. It's just a movie. It is very fun to watch. It's funny to watch. I can watch it ironically, where I think you would watch it more straight, but I can appreciate what it tries to do, even though it doesn't necessarily get there.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, you're talking about, yeah. It's a fun movie, and it's somewhat of a spoof on martial arts, and it's basically a spoof on just an action movie in general, really, in some ways. Not like a Kung Fu Hustle kind of spoof, but it's like
where there's actual Kung Fu in there. But.
Well, yeah. I mean, so it's just that or The Last Dragon. It's not a complete funny spoof, but it's just kind of like a satirical. I mean, and you got to think about what's really kind of going on in that movie. It's kind of, well, you don't have to, but you can just sit down and enjoy it. But it's just a fun movie. So
yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily meant to be that, but it definitely became that. And I think that's speaks to the art of doing that. I mean, like we create podcasts. It's essentially the same thing. Is maybe we intend on going one way with something. But it's a little more improv. I don't want to say improv, but it is improvisational. We don't script everything,
Yeah,
so it just comes out where however it comes out. If we want to kind of to wrap up, talking about the end of the movie. So the end scene, I think, is it. It makes me wish there was one more of these at least, and we kind of just got to see what happened after that. It was a good send off to our characters, but we didn't need to be necessarily a send off. Um,
well, I mean, it's right off into the sunset. Instead, they're taking a boat ride into the sunset after after Chun runs across the water, and everybody's just kind of like, well,
yeah,
what's going on?
no, but after Remo throws the guy, like does the action hero thing, throws our main villain over trucks and just says, "I'm Remo Williams," and then just casually grabs a branch, fiddles with it, and then decides to, with his own hand, set it on fire and throw it at the truck's oil supply and murder the guy they've been trying to nail with evidence.
Yeah,
So
well, the thing that to this day I wouldn't be surprised if there is something such as this or not, but it, they talk about this tool that he's supposed to be using throughout this movie, and it's called the fingerboard.
a,
Where he taps
a
his
Google
fingers
search, a
to get
Google search this
calluses.
afternoon just popped this movie up. There was nothing.
I,
No, I think
I
this is completely fictional.
well, I mean, I've never thought to even search on something like that, but it's just kind of like I'm just kind of curious. But I mean, it's kind of like Makawara training for your fingertips, and that's kind of what it's. It, and he's sitting there while they're watching soap operas, and he's hitting his little fingerboard, getting calluses on the ends of his fingers and stuff. So it's like I said, it's
But you can't connect A to B. That's the thing. Like we don't get a scene kind of before where he's like almost made it work, or like even seeing like Children do something even similar to that. It's just out of nowhere. He just like casually murders a guy by with his own hand setting a piece of wood on fire.
and
So
throwing it on the gas light from the car that he threw over. They threw the villain over.
yeah, it's you and he walks away with an explosion shot behind him. I mean, it's like you had everything there.
Yeah,
Everything was there. Um, so I think in the end, decent. I mean, I completely enjoyable. I can't really condone it. I can't really condemn it. Um, but I liked how the very end where he's like, you're incredible. No, I'm better than that.
better than
End scene. End of movie.
that.
Did it in one.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I mean, some of the things, some of the lines in that movie, I think this is probably a good place to end.
Yeah.
Is like, like I said, you move like a pregnant yak. The seasons move faster, and then one of them, what was it? Was it Remo tries to sneak in some different food into the apartment and stuff, and Chun's looking at it, and he goes, he's trying to say some of the things that are in the can and stuff. And Remo's like, you can't even say it. And he goes, I can say rat droppings. It doesn't mean I want to eat it. And I mean, things like that, you know, it, it brings a very simplistic way of looking at things like, you're right. I can say rat droppings. It doesn't mean I want to eat it. Different things like that in my daily life and stuff like. So, I mean, in some ways, I take a little bit of that into my daily life. Like, look at things a little more simple than trying to make it mean something other than what other people make it mean. So,
Which can be rat poison.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'd rather eat what's in this can than what's in this can. It's a good line. Like it's wonderful. So I mean, I would wholeheartly agree with that.
So, but I mean, hopefully other people have seen this movie and they've enjoyed it. And, what, and if not, it's definitely worth a couple hours of just downtime, especially during this time. Just kind of catch up on just kind of a fun little movie and enjoy. So,
Yeah, well, there'll also be a decent group of people very pissed off by this movie, but
don't take it too serious. Don't take it too serious. Just kind of go with it.
Those people have the right to not be happy with it, but I mean, if it's understood in the very least like I said before, it's non-representational, and I mean it's not, you can't defend it, but at the same time, like, it is because it's a completely fictionalized version of it. I think you can get around it, but you call a lot of things, but if it's still wrong, it's still wrong. So
I got you. I got you.
cool. Cool. Anything else you want to kind of hammer on this?
No, I think we've covered this about as much as we could.
Yeah. So I mean, if people can find it, it's not available. I don't think it's available on any major streamer or anything like that. But I think you can buy it through like all these movies that are just kind of supposedly B or C rated that kind of didn't came and went a long time ago are now getting reprinted because there's an audience for it. So you found it, so it's possible to find it.
I mean, that movie does have kind of a cult following. I mean, it is funny. I mean, like, I remember one night at one of our summer camps that we went to, and I think it was several Sakis, late in the night after belt testing and stuff. We started talking about different movies and stuff, and it was funny. Like, there's about 3 or 4 of us. Like, anybody ever see the Adventures of Remo Williams? And it's like, oh yeah, we need to get a copy of that. And at the time, they didn't even have it on DVD. You couldn't even get it on DVD. And then they finally republished it on DVD. So I mean, it was just one of those things. I'm waiting for No Retreat, No Surrender to come out on DVD. I mean, that was a goofy spinoff or attempt at Karate Kid, but it's still a fun movie. But anyway,
supposedly this is supposed to be one of the same guys who wrote for Predator is trying to remake it. So
oh really? Oh boy,
it's been in. I think right now everything's kind of on hold, but I mean it looks like it's been in development hell for a while. But yeah, we'll see what happens. If I survive the current crisis, I do intend to write the sequel to this. I'm going to write the sequel to this in prose form. I'm not going to write a screenplay. No, but like, also if you think of it this way, I guess one thing is, if we could ever do like a modern take on this, and like in 30 seconds, is like pitch it as like a Netflix series. Do justice by it by just being like, this is just a made up thing this is just a kind of a made up martial art, and actually cast real Koreans in it, and make it like a Netflix buddy comedy.
Or YouTube, one of the two. So.
Yes, I mean, so anyone could probably take it and do some sort of fan thing with it, which I think would be funny as long as they're not doing the stupid things the movie did.
Yeah.
But cool. Well, that wraps it for this. This is John signing off.
Take care. This is Jeremy.
All right, and thanks for listening.